the MES licensed crowdfunding platform for startups who are looking to raise debt or equity. We try to create a platform where we combine a good balance of startups, of investors, and also of mentors. We think that mentors play a very important role in helping some of the startups grow and to meet its full potential. So what we do is, when we look at companies, we look at what are some of the interesting things that investors will be interested in. The philosophy is that we want our investors to be their own fund managers. I mean, typically for professional investors and even accredited investors, for the startup space, it's still quite new to them. So they may not be comfortable putting large amounts of money, but they don't mind putting small bits into different startups and sort of grow with them. So our aim is to help most of these investors achieve that by creating a diversified portfolio of startup companies.
Thank you.
So just explaining how funding works is very helpful. I think in this part of the world, you find that the entrepreneur's ability or character is more scrutinized in the earlier stage. And so what we try to do is try to have a blend of that. So at FundedHere, what we do is we look at the company, and it's not so relevant on whether it's angel round, VC round, early stage. But I think when we come from an investor standpoint, and when we say investor, I look at a professional investor who is willing to put anything from as low as 5,000 to even 100,000 and above. What kind of questions will they ask when they're looking to invest in a startup? Now today, with no revenue, there isn't a lot of financials to look at, so financial DD doesn't quite make a difference here. But it's really the entrepreneur, and I think every investor must like the entrepreneur. They must like the industry that's in. They must see that the business is scalable, and the valuation has to be right. So when we look at valuation, we ask ourselves, what will our investors like to get for the amount that they're putting in? And I think there's a very strange psychological barrier in this part of the world, where if you put in money and you can't get 0.5% or 1% of the company, they may not quite like it. And they may like the business and they may like the founders, but if you put in $50,000 and you get 0.0001%, it may not be a meaningful buy. So we found through the few campaigns we have raised and through evaluating over 200 over campaigns, that today if you put 30 to 50,000 and you can get 0.5 or 1% of the company, you're essentially valuing the company at 3 to 5 million. Now what do we get for 3 to 5 million in Asia today? And I think that's where we come from. So whether it's an angel round with a higher valuation, or it's a Series A or post-Series A with a lower valuation, the investor is less sensitive, or at least when we say investor, again, we refer them to maybe high net worths, professional investors who may not see investing in the traditional financial model type of investment style. It's a lot of what they call feeling, right? They feel that this is right, they think they have some arbitrage because I know a bit more about this business than other investors, so I'm willing to take a punt. So we help them to take an educated punt with startups. And I think when these investors become more mature in their strategy of investing, then they may say, okay, I would like to diversify that portfolio. I'd like to put less money in more companies, or I might now want to work with a VC, because I think the threshold for investors to invest in the venture cap is significantly higher. So not many people have the access from an investor standpoint. Right? So I think that's where we try to take that journey with them. And I think from the entrepreneur standpoint, it's interesting to consider crowdfunding, because the threshold of work you need to do for an investor is significantly lower. So the platform does basic due diligence. It screens, it looks at what are the global trends, and we put them on the platform. But investors ultimately can go in there and with maybe a simple video of the founder explaining his company, basic details of it. They come for a brown bag session, they ask questions, and they have one-on-one sessions. They should be quite comfortable putting in between 5 to 50K. I think because it's still quite new, you find that typically investors ask more than what amount of money they put in. So for 5,000, they ask the same number of questions that a VC would ask. And I think part of the educational process is to sort of help them understand that well, if you're putting 5 or 10, then you should really only be asking these questions. If you put in more, you can ask more, and I think that part still requires a bit of tweaking. But if you ask what is it that investors can expect, I think it's no different from any early stage investment. The horizon is still 5-10 years. The company still needs to create value. I think the investment thesis is that you try to come in as early as possible. I mean, you don't try to cap your downside, but you try to maximize your upside. So, and because this is still new, you can be what we call a difficult investor, asking questions. And a good entrepreneur would know how to sort of balance and manage some of those investor expectations.
Thank you.